Well, I think I'm off mute actually, so I'll jump in first. Yes, Slips, we know you don't like talking about yourself, but maybe at this time you might have to a little bit because you know it's quite an achievement that the record that you're going to match on the weekend. Sort of, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a proud moment for me. Yeah, it's probably why I'm up for media today. Clearly, yeah. Look, it's one of those things you know you set out in your career and you don't really expect to get that many games. So I'm very lucky. I feel like I've had a lot of luck and you know my timing's been good and yeah, a lot of hard work's gone into it. So I'm very proud.
Matt Fassler said that you made your debut before Instagram was around. But to be fair, I think it was the same year in 2010. But I mean, how do you find, I guess, the new generation of Wallabies or whatever you? I mean, I'm not saying you're old by any stretch, but you know, have you found things change? I guess over the years.
Oh yeah, things have changed massively. I think just the dynamic in the group, um, you know, the music that's been played has changed a fair bit over the last 15 years. So the game itself on the field has changed. There's been trends that have changed throughout those years. But you know, I guess the core fundamentals of a rugby team haven't changed. You know, hard work and working for your teammate, and I guess those bonds you make off the field is that's definitely hasn't changed.
And last one for me on you anyway. I guess like you had a pretty rough trot there for a year or so. At that stage, you might have wondered if you were going to play another test, and here you are, you know, about to come the Bledisloe, all things going well, you'll be the most capped Wallaby ever. So, I mean, did you have doubts? I suppose going back, you know, 5 or 6 years ago that this would ever sort of happen.
No, I remember saying at the time that I didn't know if I was going to play again. And you know, I guess thinking back now, probably the Wallabies wasn't a goal of mine at the time to get back into the international team. It was more about just sorting out my life and getting back playing rugby of any sort. And that was at the Brumbies. So yeah, I look back now, it was obviously a bit of adversity in my journey, but it's probably you know, I guess paved the way for where I'm at now.
Slips, can I just get you to recall your test number one in Perth as a baptism of fire from memory?
Subiaco Oval. I'll never forget that night. It was, I think Johnny Wilkinson was still playing, believe it or not. I don't know if you,
Yeah, I know.
you know him. Yeah, it was a tough night for me. I got put on into a 5 minute scrum and ended up playing both loose end and tight end, and they ended up with a penalty try. So yeah, it was a tough encounter, especially for me on debut. But it was, you know, till this day that's still my favourite game, even though I didn't go that great.
Flips, Blocker here. I was just wondering, has Greg's reached out to you at all? And how does it feel like to be sort of mentioned in the same, you know, when we think of Australian rugby, you think of guys like Gregan, Liner, Far Jones, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How does it feel for you to be mentioned in that same breath? And have you spoken to him?
Yeah, we talk quite frequently. We'll drop each other a message here and there. He sent the boys and myself a message before the last game, just to wishing us all the best. So he's been a big supporter of us as a group for the last couple of years, and yeah, I've gotten to know him over the years as well. So he's a great bloke. Yeah. What was the second part of that question?
Just about being mentioned in sort of the same breath as guys like that. You know, you spoke about your journey. Like, what does it feel like when, you know, you're mentioned in the same sort of category?
Yeah, a little bit awkward. It doesn't sit natural with me, but you know, I grew up watching rugby and watching most of those players play the game and playing the Wallaby jersey, and in particular, you know, those early 2000 90 players. They're the ones that I grew up watching and idolising, and obviously Gregan was a part of that group. And, to be mentioned alongside him is pretty special in my opinion.
Slips, do you ever get sick of talking about all the records you're breaking? Because it was once a week during the World Cup last year.
Yeah, it does get it turns into a bit of a joke for the boys around me. One thing I do know, Christy, it's going to come to an end one day. So we'll just see how we go, mate. See how many I can get.
Any further online? Have you got it still?
Sorry, mate, we'll get there then. The video's just buffering a bit. Just wondering in terms of physically, like, yeah, we'll hopefully push on. Slips, just wondering physically, how the heck does someone who's a front rower push on for 139 tests, and how difficult is it to kind of get yourself physically prepared for matches?
Physically, it's been a challenge. Like I guess throughout my career, you start off really fresh and really excited to train, and probably don't maximise your recovery, but kind of flips, later in the career. So, just being smart about how I train, when I train, how I train, and obviously that recovery is a big thing. So, I guess you got to really look after yourself, back at home.
James, can I ask, apart from that first test, probably your favourite moment and probably your least favourite, the hardest moment you've gone through in these games?
I've got so many favourites. It's really hard to pinpoint one, but I look at that. It was a loss, but the World Cup final in 2015 was a really special game. Probably the top level of rugby that we can play individually and as a team. So that was a big one. And then probably my 100th cap was beating the All Blacks at Suncorp, so at my home stadium and in front of the friends and family. And probably the worst would probably have to be, I think the World Cup last year. I reckon you could pick any of those games and it'd be pretty tough to pass.
Christy was talking about the physicality and how hard it is. Like, do you, looking forward, do you have any issues around what your future might look like, having put your body through this amount of stress and work? Like as a retired player, do you ever look and kind of get concerned about what that path looks like as a guy who's been such a warrior?
Well, I hope not. Look, I don't plan on being a pilot or anything like that, so it'll be a pretty simple life for me after rugby. So I'm not too worried. I genuinely do look after my body. I do everything I can in terms of looking after my brain and joints like that. So we'll see how we go. But interesting question.
Sorry. Well, I've got one for Len as well then. Len, Joe was just in here and talking about how you went last week, and a lot of people had you down as, I guess, man of the match. How did that personal performance sit for you in relation to your career? And also he was talking about you still needing to find your voice. How difficult is that for you, or how do you feel you're kind of going in that space?
Yeah, I thought it was a good game by the team last week, especially Hammer having his debut. I thought we gelled well together in the back line, and overall it was a good game. In terms of finding my voice, I think I'm real quiet off the field. I kind of like to keep to myself a bit. But in terms of that, it's just making sure that I'm communicating to the forwards in terms of what I want and what I see on the field. Just kind of need to keep working on that and making sure that I'm vocal there.
Lenny, can you just give us a bit of insight to what Slips does for the group? I know you've obviously played with him a while at the Brumbies, and he was into you about not knowing who Johnny Wilkinson was, but can you talk to us about how he sort of bridges that gap and, I don't know, does he give you confidence because he's been around for a long time, or talk to us a bit about his influence?
Yeah, I just think he brings a lot of experience into the group. He's someone that leads with his actions, and I guess we're gonna need that this week against Argentina.
And as
Lenny,
I was just going to say, Lenny, as a young Queenslander growing up, you would have probably watched Slips while you were coming through the junior ranks. Like, was he someone you looked up to, or because he's a forward? Not really.
I was kind of more into Quade Cooper, to be honest. But yeah, it was good to see Slippy in the Reds system. So yeah, I was more of a Quade Cooper, Ben Tapawai. Nothing against Slippy.
And Lenny, what's the most quirky thing about Slips?
What's that, sorry?
Apart from his hats. What's the most quirky thing about Slips apart from his hats?
I reckon giving nicknames to people. I'm not sure if you guys seen that video on Stan when he's giving Tooley a nickname and he just rattles out just Tool. That was pretty funny when I heard that, and yeah, it just stuck with me.